Welcome to Next Steps, a podcast from Blackhawk Church. We believe that following Jesus is a lifelong journey. So no matter where you're at, there's always a next step to take. Each week on this podcast, we'll create space for real conversations about the questions we wrestle with, the challenges we face, and the hope we find in Jesus. Our goal isn't to have it all perfectly figured out, but to walk faithfully towards Jesus together. We're so glad you're joining us. Let's dive in.
Welcome into the Next Steps podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris Kopp, and with me is Tiffany Malloy. Tiffany, how's it going this morning?
Good. Yeah, we are. It's a good day.
Yeah?
It's a good day.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. And Charles Yu is with us as well. Charles,
glad to be here. Doing good. Yeah.
Good.
Lovely day.
As we record this, we are nearing the end of our Exodus series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a decent day outside. It's this week where it was warm and now it's a little chillier. Kind of typical Wisconsin weather, but sun is out. There's no snow. We'll take it. That's all.
That's right.
All good.
Low bar. Hit it. We're good.
Spring is here. There's a lot of great stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, today, our goal for today is to kind of wrap up the Exodus series. We have some questions that you all submitted and a few others that have maybe come up in the context of teaching team stuff that we just didn't have time to really dig into sufficiently. So we're going to dig into some of those, wrap up the series. We'll talk more about this at the end, but man, just been a really great series. How many weeks was it? 13?
13 weeks.
13 weeks, and we're almost there. Well, probably by the time you're listening to this, we will have finished.
13 weeks is really short if you think about it. For a book that's 40 chapters?
I think that's what you said in the beginning introduction podcast episode 2. I think we're like 13 weeks.
Yeah.
Why? What are we going to talk about?
We did the Gospel of Mark. We did it in 22.
Wow.
And that was 16 chapters. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We could have gone a lot longer.
Definitely something an Old Testament scholar would say. No, but I remember sitting in this room introducing the series and you talking about like how it's one of the top 2 most important books in the Bible. And I was a little bit like, really? But it's been really good, really meaningful in my own life. Maybe we'll talk about that later, or at least ask you kind of, Charles, what's stuck out to you, what you want for our congregation. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's dig into some questions. All right, here's one from a recent message. Pastor Lynn talked about the golden calf story, and there's a lot of details in there that it's hard to get into all of that in 35 minutes. But here's one I want to focus on for just a second. So, Charles, is there something different about how the Levites engaged in this story? Moses asks, like, who's for Yahweh? Will they come to me? And the Levites all come, and it seems like they're all spared. So were they not participating in the events around the gold calf, or was their coming to Moses an act of repentance that no one else participated in, or what? I don't know. Take us into that. What sets them apart? What's going on in the text as far as,
Great question. First of all, when it comes to precisely what the Levites did or did not do as part of the golden calf thing, we're going to be dealing with speculation.
Sure.
But what I think I want to do is I want to give you some kind of like dynamic at work that might help us reframe thinking about what's happening. So as you recall, God met the Israelites. Hey, let's have a covenant. Let's be married. Here's the 10 Commandments. Here's the laws, right? So the idea is that the entire Israel nation belongs to God. It is now you have to think about this. The things we think religiously, that's our problem. And in the West, religion is separated from everything else. Faith is private.
Sure.
That's not how, first of all, how most of the world thinks, and that's not how it's been thought of for most of human history. No, religion is actually political. Religion is heavily into allegiance. And so what's happening here is that what Moses has done is he's taken Israel into the desert and says, hey, we're going to now be a theocracy. We're going to be a nation that worships this Yahweh God, and we're going to have a society structured based on the 10 Commandments and the laws that we saw in the chapters. Now, when Moses goes up to the mountain, have a conversation, 40 days, when Aaron brings out a golden calf and says, this is your God, the one who brought you out of Egypt, what we think of as a religious violation is also a reforming of politics. What's happening is a civil war. Because which side are you on is really the question. So when Moses comes down, first thing he does is he destroys the golden calf. But what he sees is a camp full of people who are still doing the worship ritual rites of the ancient Near Eastern religion. And he's like, wow, they've gone crazy. They've gone wild. So the question he asks is, the translation is, who is for Yahweh? Actually, the Hebrew it's actually 3 words that's so compact. Mi, Ladonai, Eli. Okay? Who means who. Ladonai means to Yahweh or belonging to Yahweh. Eli, to me. Who belongs to Yahweh, come to me. It is a cry for allegiance. Who is on God's side, join me right now. Okay, we're going to divide the nation. This is a civil war. We're going to engage in civil war right now because there's been a revolution. And Aaron, if you want to think about it this way, has overthrown the theocracy that's really mediated through Moses. We have a change and we have a battle now and for the heart and soul of the people of God. And so one group jumped in. Now the question, people were asking is, well, were they guilty? It's like, that doesn't really matter. What matters is, here's Moses making the call, and we have a whole group of people saying, yep, we're on Yahweh's side. We're on this side of the battle, of the war. And now, interestingly, it's the Levites. And that detail is important because Moses is from what tribe? He's a Levite. Okay?
So that's
it's his
probably
people.
Why.
Yeah, there is some kind of a familial clan connection. Moses comes back, and Aaron was there to see. This is interesting because Aaron was the other leader that led the other way, but Moses is like, oh, I'm one of you guys, and like, okay, cool. And so Levites have a more natural connection to Moses, and so this overthrowing of Moses and overthrowing of Yahweh, the Levites like, no, this guy's our guy. And so they came and they united around him. And then civil war started.
Yeah. Wow.
They went and attacked and killed off the leaders of the rebellion who were engaging in this overthrowing. It's
interesting.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot there. I mean, I think sometimes we think like, oh, what's the big deal? They made a calf, but putting it in the context of a civil war and allegiance, that's all really helpful. I mean, you kind of turn the corner toward this, but can we talk about I feel like we can gloss over these things sometimes on Sunday mornings, but why would a good God basically go say, murder your fellow Israelites?
Yes.
Like he just gave them the command, not to kill people. And yet here, probably some sort of divine justice thing going on. But can you, I don't know, how do you approach this and the tension maybe that exists there? That's
a good question. Now, I think that, first of all, it is entirely normal for us to go, ugh.
Yeah.
We are uncomfortable with this passage because they went around and they killed 3,000 people, just slaughtered people left and right. And we're like, that's not right. How does that reveal God? Right. And so first thing, clarification. I know that the King James translation of do not kill, the command is thou shalt not kill, which is very popular. Everybody has it in their head. That is not the Hebrew. The typical word for kill is harag, and that is not what's going on in the Ten Commandments. The sixth command is ratzach, which is thou shalt not commit murder, which usually involves lying in wait, and you're murdering someone for your own selfish gain, out of anger, and so on and so forth. Which means this command does not preclude holy war. It does not preclude warfare at all. So there's no conflict between this and capital punishment and or warfare. Now we can. Okay, let me just take a step. Let me take a step back. Let me take a step back. I know it's like, whoa. Okay, stop right now. This is one. Okay, there's a phrase we use. It's actually the name of a book. I forgot who wrote it. It's a phrase we use in teaching team. We call right message, wrong passage. This is one of those, right? For example, I think you can make a Christian case against capital punishment in our society. Yep. You can make that case if you want, and you can biblically. First of all, there is capital punishment. There's definitely death penalty prescribed prescribed in the Old Testament. So the idea that somehow the Ten Commandments counters death penalty is simply not true.
Sure.
Okay. But today we can say a Christian can make a good faith biblical argument against capital punishment the way it's being executed in our country. We can make that argument, and people can make the opposite argument. I mean, there's cases to be had.
Yeah.
However, don't use that passage.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be the thing.
It.
Same thing with warfare.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people who are absolute commitment to nonviolence. There are Christians who says no. We do not believe in war. I will not carry a weapon. I will not fight ever. And there's people on the other side who are saying no. There's an entire thing called just war theory. That sometimes wars are justified, sometimes violence is justified. Once again, Christians can make those kind of arguments, have a conversation, but don't use this passage.
Got it.
This passage is not about those two things. Okay. So once we figured that out, remember, it's the you shall not commit murder is part of a covenant society where everybody's committed to the well-being of other people. Okay. That's the context of the Ten Commandments, covenant people. And now we have an entirely different situation where we have a former covenant people that has broken its covenant, and now it is in a war, a civil war for the soul and the direction of the future of the people of God. And this is where you will see this happening quite often. If you actually get to the book of Numbers, again, major rebellion at Kadesh Barnea. And then literally the ground opens up and the leaders of the opposition just get swallowed by the ground. It's like, whoa, what happened there? This kind of event happens again and again. And there is this necessity for cleansing the people of God. Now, I know somebody
sounds terrible, doesn't it?
It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just make a distinction between Old Testament and New Testament. This is really important. Okay. The underlying assumption of the Old Testament, which has played out over and over again, is that when holy meets what is unholy, holy becomes unholy. Does that make sense?
Right, that's a very common.
The holy people of God encounters the unholy part. The holy kind of gets polluted and gets pulled away. There is which is why the Old Testament laws are so interested in putting boundaries for the people of God to follow God, because it's hard to follow God. It's hard to stay in covenant with God. Okay, that's cool, but which means you got to draw boundaries. And if you look at the storyline, is that the repeated failure for God's people to draw boundaries leads them into temptation and rebellion over and over and over again. Which is why the story of Joshua. Why is it so important to clean out the Canaanites? Because why? If you don't, what's going to happen? You're going to be just like one of them. So that's the mindset and the posture of the Old Testament. Okay, and this is very interesting. When you get to the return from exile, the Ezra and Nehemiah, the stories, the Israelites learned the lesson. They said, we're going to stay insular. We're going to stay with each other. Do not marry a Gentile. Stay away from the Gentiles. Stay out of the temple. We're going to be insulated and consider everything Gentile unclean. And then Jesus shows up. And he's like, I'm going to hang out with Gentiles. I'm going to hang out with tax collectors, prostitutes. I don't care. And I'm going to create this new church. I'm going to send you out into the Gentiles. Go into the world. And suddenly, the underlying, this is so huge. The underlying principle got reversed. The idea is that now in the New Testament, when holy and unholy meets, holy wins. Unholy becomes holy. The power dynamic has shifted because Jesus says, I'm empowering my people through the Holy Spirit so that when they meet what is unholy, they're going to change them. Which is why, as a church, we welcome people to come to church. It used to be like if you want, if you're in the Holy Spirit, we want the church to be as pure as possible. We don't want non-Christians around because they're going to pull us away.
Yeah.
What do we think of now? We think, come and join us and see, be part of our community. You can belong before you believe.
Yeah.
And what happens? Our belief is that encountering, living, and hanging out with Christ followers with all their flaws and mistakes, you will be drawn to God, and you will be transformed by the power of the Spirit. So there's a massive shift here. So we're not cleansing the people of God the way we did in the Old Testament, but there's a reason for that. And I think in the Old Testament, there's kind of this repeated cleansing required because God's people couldn't stay holy. They could not stay focused on who God is.
Thanks for sharing that. I don't know that I've ever heard this topic kind of talked through with that progression of things and leading through Jesus. That's really helpful. Tiffany, were you about to say something?
No, just so good. I think I'm going to listen to this again and take some notes when...
Sometimes it's tempting for this to become our own personal learning session, and yet we'll keep going. So thank you. That's really, really good. There's just like one line or two lines about the Levites, but you helped us understand all of that. That's really helpful. Maybe along similar lines, I mean, we're talking about the ways that we apply certain of the commandments to modern day. You mentioned in one of your messages about how really the 10 Commandments are not great to try to apply to our own nation. That's not what they were intended for, that kind of thing. I wonder if you could just unpack that a little bit for us. I could foresee a pushback of like, well, yeah, they weren't intended for us. The Bible's written not for us, not to us. And yet, like, couldn't they be a good baseline for morality if we were able to follow these things and strive for these things? So tell us more about that. Like, why is it hard to apply the 10 Commandments to our own kind of political systems or nation states and that kind of thing?
That's a great question. So let me separate out the question to two questions. Okay. I want you to clarify things. Question number one would be, who is the 10 Commandments intended for? From a biblical perspective. I just want to clarify that. And then we can ask the second question, okay, regardless of what it's intended for, would it be a good idea for America, for our country to go, let's make this the foundation of our laws? And they're really separate questions.
Sure.
Because America is a democracy. We can talk and go, I know it's not for us, intended for us, but we want to use it anyway. And we can certainly make that decision as a country, as a community. So let's talk about the first one. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page on that one.
That's good.
The big problem with 10 Commandments is that people read them out of context. They pull it straight out of Exodus 20, and they don't look at what came before, what comes after. If you look at what comes before, it's chapter 19. This is the passage on covenant, right? Marriage, right? God says, be with me, join a covenant with me. And then chapter 20, God shows up, lays out 10 Commandments. There's a section on the law. If you keep reading, we didn't cover this. We could have done this if we had more weeks
we should have
Exodus.
had more weeks.
That didn't sound sincere.
I was trying to get enthusiastic.
You're faking enthusiasm. Thanks. Chapter 24 is a whole section of covenant initiation, where they're like, we read all this, and Moses is like, do you want to do it? They go, yeah. And then he's like, he pours blood out, and he's like sprinkling blood on them. And they're like, yeah, this is it. We have actually now confirmed the covenant. And so 10 Commandments is smack dab in the middle of this. And if you don't read it within the covenant context, it becomes generic moral laws. If you read it within the covenant context, it is absolutely part of the covenant. Right? God says, look, if you want to be in covenant with me, this is what you want, what you want to live out. It reveals who I am, partners with me to rule the world, all the things we talked about. So if we want to say, what does the Bible say about the 10 Commandments? Who is it for? The answer is, it is for the covenant people of God. And who are the covenant people of God today? The church. So I would say the primary thing I want to say about the 10 Commandments is, hey, the church, the people of God, those of you who says you follow Jesus, 10 Commandments for you. Think that 99% of your thoughts about the 10 Commandments should be on that. Okay. I hope there's no questions on that. I mean, there's going to be questions on it, but I don't want to be any lack of clarity on that. When you read 10 Commandments in context, it tells us exactly what it's for. Okay. Now move that aside. So now we have a country, America, with some Christian roots and traditions, and we're like, the 10 Commandments are pretty good rules. They're really helpful. And the reality is some of it is already in our laws. For example, thou shalt not kill, right? Thou shalt not commit murder. We have murder laws. We have theft laws. Okay. That may be the only ones we have.
I was going to say, we don't have Sabbath laws.
We don't have Sabbath laws. We don't have adultery laws. We used to have adultery laws, but now it's like, I don't think there's, I don't
think there's a criminal.
Right. When there's no criminal, even like civil, for example, a divorce. It used to, there's a lot of like, they're called, what do they call it? They're kind of just equal division. They don't care about increasingly in various states. The courts don't care.
No fault
divorce. Exactly. No fault divorce. That's the term I'm looking for. Increasingly, that's happening. So that's going away. We don't have we do have perjury laws.
But not in general.
But not in general, right?
Yeah.
But you can say things about people and behind their backs. And libel laws are notoriously difficult to enforce. So not a lot of stuff going on like that. And we certainly don't have anything on the 10th commandment. Okay. So the question I think people ask is, wouldn't it be nice if America had the 10 commandments as its foundation? And I would say, okay, I would go in two different directions. One is, would it actually be good for our country? From just as an American, I'm not speaking as a pastor. Sure. Would it be good for America? And I would raise some questions. And then the second question I would ask is, would it be good for the church? That's actually my primary concern. Would it be good for the people of God? So let's walk through the 10 commandments. Know God before us, and do not, and then no idols. So first law that gets translated in America would be the ending of freedom of religion. Everybody has to worship Yahweh, or worship in our today's day and age. Everybody has to be Christian. Everybody has to worship Jesus. That's the rule. That's the law. And then, of course, blasphemy laws. You cannot blaspheme God. You cannot take God's name to vanity, to what is vain, what is empty. And so we will have blasphemy laws. Yeah. So ending of freedom of speech, at least when it comes to religion.
Yep.
Sabbath laws would be interesting. Enforcing of Sabbath laws, closing down companies and businesses, and ending travel one day every 7 days.
I love you, Chick-fil-A, but if everyone did that, that would be a major bummer.
Yeah.
And can you imagine cars stop, nobody driving, no flying?
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
okay,
nothing.
wow. And then, okay, I do like the idea of honoring your parents. I think
I'd be behind that.
but laws requiring, for example, that you need to take care of your parents, and
no matter what,
no matter what,
you live in a different place, doesn't matter. You're
responsible for them financially, emotionally for them. We'll have laws about that.
Yeah.
Laws about kids contributing to the welfare of their parents, regardless. That would be interesting. We have murder laws. We have theft laws. We just talked about adultery. Can you imagine we going back to criminalizing adultery again? I don't know if it's a good thing or not. It's just like, hey, think about it out loud. Like, let's take this seriously. You want 10 commandments to be the foundation of our laws. Let's think about, is that a society we want to live in? I think the 10th one is the most fascinating one. You shall not covet. Now,
that's like motivation.
Exactly. You cannot police what's going on in your head, but you can certainly decrease temptation, which means we need to police advertising. Instagram, social media needs to get just majorly censored because it increases coveting, right? And we need to get rid of most commercials. Because what are they trying to do? Trying to get you to covet, trying to get you to desire. So even just very briefly, and we haven't spent that much time on each one, I think we painted a pretty drastic picture of what American society would look like if it's with 10 commandments as the foundation of its laws. It would be a very different place. And I don't know if you can say, that's what I want. Okay, that's fine. This is democracy, right? We choose the kind of government we have. And I'm, for one, be like, ooh, this seems, I think there's going to be all kinds of unintended consequences, all kinds of things going wrong that we don't expect. Yeah. We did, we don't remember because nobody's alive, but we did prohibition. We tried that. We say alcohol's bad for the country. Let's ban it. That did not go well. And I think it's going to be like that, except on a much bigger level if we try to do all these things. But I think the part that I do care about the most, and I think that really matters, is I think it'd be horrible for the church.
Say more about that.
We've done this in church history, where, when Constantine became emperor and really kind of, in some ways, made the church Christianity the preeminent religion in the land, what it does is it made Christianity kind of a default, kind of a place where actually people can gain power and influence rather than sacrifice and be a servant of Jesus. It corrupted the church. So, look, we've had the problem of nominal Christianity is huge. People are like, oh, I'm an American, I'm a Christian. That doesn't happen these days. But in the 1950s, 1960s, I'm an American, I'm a Christian. Why? Because I'm born in this country. It's kind of this kind of merging of Christianity and your American identity, kind of American religion. Christianity is a civil religion. It's not good for the church. It's not good for our discipleship. It is not good for how people view who God is and view Jesus is. So on that ground alone, I would say, please don't. That's a horrible idea. We do not want Christianity to be a national religion in America. It will destroy the church. And when we've seen what's done before.
Thanks for sharing those things. We came at it from the perspective of the 10 Commandments, but this is obviously a very real conversation in our country in different ways, and probably will never go away. It comes into play in different ways throughout the course of history, but it's important to grapple with. I loved what you said about is it good enough, or is it good for our country? We can debate about that, but first of all, it's for us. The 10 Commandments are for us as the church, so we should take those seriously. And is it good for the church and for what God wants to do? Those are really good things to kind of to reflect on and to press into. So thanks for sharing that. How about we have time for maybe another one quick one before we wrap up.
Are there any quick ones? When you ask Charles questions, oh my gosh.
Charles, in 2 minutes or less, can you answer this next question?
Well, I think you can with this one. Okay. Brandon submitted a question. Thanks, Brandon. Just wanting to clarify and dig into the correspondence or the connection between baptism and the parting of the Red Sea.
Okay.
So his question, are the acts of moving through water and being led from oppression the links between baptism and the parting of the Red Sea? Or kind of help us understand one more time, just how does that work? We only had 30 minutes to be able to talk through that connection. So what else could you add to maybe help clarify that?
This is not a 2-minute answer.
It's all right. People are listening on 2 times speed, so it's really
4 minutes.
Should be no problem. I talk slow enough anyway, so it's not a problem. We can speed it up. 1.5, 2 times. Okay. This is Pastor Chris, right? Wait.
Who did?
He did
yes, he did the baptism one.
He didn't have enough time. He said 35 minutes.
Right.
And that's just the reality. If you want to start talking about this motif of moving through water, you really start with Genesis chapter 1. Right? Genesis chapter 1, just hang out with me for a little bit. Okay? You have all kinds of questions. Genesis chapter 1 starts with water, Tehom, deep. And then there's the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God hovering above. And then the water parts above and below, creating the space, and then parts sideways, creating dry land. The idea is that the water is chaos in the ancient world. Chaotic is also in some ways, it could be associated with Yam, the Canaanite god. So it's kind of like killing of the Canaanite god, taking what is chaotic and unsustainable for life and creating the space for life to happen. That's Genesis 1. Water splitting open, dry ground showing up. We get to the story of Noah. Same thing happens. Water fills the land again, and then there's an amazing moment where God says, okay, he remembered Noah, and he has the wind come and blow the water, and the dry ground starts showing up. And once again, we have the water, this time the water of judgment against all the rebellion and the corruption of the earth, and then the space again for God's people, the people of God and the animals and creation to thrive. So the first one is chaos, creating space for life. Noah, it's judgment and creating space for life.
Wow.
And then we get to the Exodus story. And this time, water splits open. And this time, it's not only judgment, it is freedom from slavery. Freedom from oppression, and this is where the water opens up, and they move through the water, and now they're on the other side, and the Egyptian army is destroyed. Judgment plus ending of oppression, and then you get to the story of Joshua, where they're crossing the Jordan River, and the Ark of the Covenant. They walk into the river, and the water stops. And once again, dry land shows up. And this time we have an entrance into the promised land. This is now, we're crossing crossing through water into dry ground. And now we're in a place where we are actually where we're meant to be. This is home. And this is where we're going to be with God. And so you see these four major events in the Old Testament, in the story of the Bible, that has this repeated motif of water parting, dry ground showing up.
Exodus is just one of those four.
One of those four,
okay.
right? And then this is where I think we talked about this one. If you missed it, go back to the very first, well, maybe the first sermon on Gospel of Mark, where John the Apostle shows up and he starts baptizing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember the story, he baptizes in the Jordan. And it's in the South Jordan, very, very much close to the place where Joshua led his people across. Mm-hmm. And what we talk about today is that what John the Baptist was doing was he was doing a symbolic re-entry into the Promised Land. He's saying, everybody, let's go through the water, and we're the new Joshua people. Mm-hmm. We're the new Joshua people. We're going to re-enter the Promised Land because what's going on right now in Jerusalem is corrupt. It's not real. We need a new thing going on. And then, of course, we need a new Joshua. So Joshua shows up. By the way, if you remember, Jesus, Yeshua, is actually Joshua. So a new Joshua shows up and he baptizes them. He leads them through the water and the Holy Spirit comes upon him, right? The Ruach, the Spirit, Holy Spirit comes upon him. And that's baptism according to John the Baptist. Wow. So if you think about it, the very first instance of baptism in the New Testament is not Jesus' baptism. It was John the Baptist's baptism, hence John the Baptist. And his baptism is connected to the Jordan River crossing. It's an intentional political act to say, we're doing a re-entry. And so now, if you keep going in the Gospel of John, Jesus starts talking about being born from above. And what does he say? You must be born from the water and the Spirit. Yeah. And then, Nicodemus is like, well, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. He's like, you're a leader. You don't understand this? You read the Hebrew Bible and you don't understand this? That new birth, not being born again from going through the birth canal and do it again, but being born from above, being reborn from God requires water and the Spirit. Not literal water? No. We're talking about the Old Testament. The motif of water splitting open, chaos ending, new life, a space for new life, judgment against sin, removed, cleansed, new life, the removal of sinful oppression into a new life, and finally entrance into the very kingdom of God itself. That's what baptism symbolizes. And when you get to the Jesus baptism, when you get to Paul describing baptism, that's where he goes. When Paul starts talking about baptism in Romans 6, he gets at ending the oppression because we're under oppression to sin, and you're freed from that because you're baptized into Christ. And so the connection is multi-layered. The connection is deep. And there's a lot of kind of evocative themes and images that come from it. It is, I think, a much richer, deeper understanding of baptism than we typically have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. That, not bad. 6 minutes, I think.
That's so good. Wow,
I was a little nervous when you went back to Genesis 1.
Here we go.
Might take a while.
Survey of baptism covering the Old Testament and New Testament. I have nenever heard all of that before, so thanks for
I think that's good. I think one of my biggest questions, high school, college, that nobody could really quite answer for me was, because I think people just didn't really truly understand, is why was Jesus baptized? Like, why? Because when we think about baptism, it's like, well, he was all like, why did Jesus have to get baptized? Nobody could come up with good, the people who are in my life, but I think that could be a common question. And so you putting it inside the story of what is going on, helping to make those hyperlinks, I think is really helpful.
Yeah. It makes me a little sad, actually, because we talk about baptism, or like so many, I'm listening to so many sermons and podcasts and things when I first became a Christ follower, and I was like, well, be baptized because Jesus tells you to, which is a good reason to do it. But like, man, just the richness of that, like, putting chaos in its place and new life, like sign me up for that. Yeah. Like I want to be baptized. That's incredible. Yeah. So thanks for highlighting that for us. All right, let's wrap up. Any closing thoughts, Charles, or Tiff, as we're kind of wrapping up the Exodus series? Anything that stood out to you that you hope will carry forward as a church, or a way that God will just continue to use this to change us and shape us? What are some parting words that you might have for us?
You want to jump in on this at all?
Very generally, I even connected to what we were just talking about. I am excited that this series has helped us as a church to connect some of the things that are so important to our faith to the bigger story. It has increased our depth of truly understanding. It's like when you're learning math, right? And you're like coming up with this concept, you learn the formula, you know how to use the formula. Great. But once you learn what the formula means, it like opens up this whole new mathematical world. Whoa. And so, math nerd.
Yes, no kidding. Wow.
But it's like, it's incredible what the world opens up to, and you see math in a different way. You see everything underneath. So in the same way, I feel like this has helped crack open this like deeper, richer understanding that we can take with us.
I really appreciate you saying that. It reminded me. Okay, sorry, we're gonna go.
Not to Genesis 1, please.
No, back into the 1980s. So this, would you just reminded me of one of my physics professors. Because you learn physics, you learn formulas. So I was an engineer. So this is a college professor, my freshman year, and this professor, he was an expert in physics teaching. He won awards for teaching physics. He wasn't like this major researcher. He just was good at teaching it. And the thing is, when you meet him, you don't see it because he's a short little guy who has a huge accent. I think European, like a Polish accent, and he talks really fast, really funny. And I have never seen it done before. Every lecture, he just derived every formula. He showed us where they all came from, such that in our tests, we never memorized formulas.
Didn't have to.
We didn't have to. We just know how it all worked. So you got to the underlying dynamic. That's exactly what you're getting at. So I thank you for pointing that out because that's a great memory. But also I thank you because that is a huge part of what we're trying to accomplish in this series. I think on the most basic level, we wanted people to know the story of Exodus because a lot of fun stories in there that you might know about, and we want to connect them together and connect it to some of the things that you might not know about and maybe not as fun to read. So there's stuff like that going on in Exodus as well. But I think we want people to realize that the story of Exodus is one of those underlying realities of the entire story of the Bible. It motivates so much of what other people in the Bible say about faith, what they say about Jesus, what they say about transformation, salvation, baptism, communion. Right? We talked about all those connections. They're all tagging back to the story. And if you know the story, you can figure it out. A lot of the stuff, right? So I'll give you some examples. We just talked about the parting of the Red Sea. One of the big themes in Exodus that should help you understand is salvation is not being saved from God's judgment. Okay, I know this is the idea out there. Jesus comes to save you from hell. Okay, that if when you read the story of Exodus, you realize that is not what's happening. You're being saved from the oppression and domination and slavery to the demonic forces of sin and death. And God's pulling you out of there. Now, are you also being saved from judgment? Well, if you align yourself with sin and death, yes, you are. So there is judgment you're being saved from. But the goal is to get you out so you can live a different life. The transformation is the goal, right? And then I think that part, I think hopefully people have caught on, and we've been teaching that for quite a bit. But what I really like, the added dimension, is the covenant plus union and connection and presence with God that shows up in the second and the third section of the book of Exodus. Salvation leads you straight into a communal commitment, alliance to God. Allegiance, not alliance. Allegiance to God. And then culminating in the tabernacle where God creates space to be with us. And then finally, Moses' relationship with God. And we're like, whoa, that's supposed to be a kind of a challenge to us. I go, that's what's possible. I see the book of Exodus as this holistic understanding of salvation. Rescued from sin and death. joining a covenant community of the church, and then individually reaching a place of deep intimacy and dynamic engagement with God himself, where God delights in you and you delight in God. And that is the whole picture. We're uniting all of what we think of as Christianity, right? Because otherwise people get separated, right? You have, I just do evangelism. I would just do conversion. Oh, we really just do covenant. We do church, and then we're like, no, we have spiritual formation.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is all there.
Yeah,
one unified picture, all found in one book.
Wow, this is for free. You
I know.
I feel like we could keep going for a lot longer, but this has been so good. Yeah, thanks both of you for those answers. Any final thoughts, words?
Okay, so first podcast, you did say, like you mentioned, this was one of your favorite, the second most important book of the Bible. And I think I said, I think you're going to have to convince me. I think I'm
convinced. Did you get there?
I got it. Yeah,
right.
I see it. So thanks.
Full circle, you did it. So, nice. Well, thank you so much for listening and tracking with us through this series. I think I was just sitting here thinking this is a good example of like, we don't just study these books to study them or to like learn the theology or that kind of thing. Like, oh, we got to do Exodus. We haven't done it in a while, but like, man, so much good stuff that you both talked about. It can lead to our transformation and just deepening relationship with God. That's the goal. So thanks for sticking out with us and continuing to track with these. I don't know what's next. What's next on the podcast, Tiffany?
We'll be surprised. I can't remember right now, but I'm guessing it's more, if I had to guess, it's about our invite culture. Potentially.
Ooh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're kind of coming to the end of a ministry year here too. So some new and exciting things that we don't even fully
keep
know.
listening. You never know what you're gonna get next. Yep.
So but thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Next Steps. Don't forget to check out the show notes for a list of resources if you'd like to keep the conversation going. If you want to learn more about how to get connected at Blackhawk or simply find tools to help you grow, check out blackhawk.church/hub. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. Until next time, let's keep following Jesus together.